Good evening and welcome to the overnight edition of From Day One. Art Bell and Kevin Randle are here to take us through the overnight as we conclude the 100-plus years of UFO cover-ups.
I'm struggling with the concept of hostility, I guess, because it seems to be much more benign than the alien invasion that is so much fun in the movies. And I've never understood that anyway, why they would have to invade us the way they always do in the movies, but that's a whole other argument.
Well, they wouldn't have to. From what I can see, we're a fairly rare planet. You know, we have a lot of resources. We seem to be in the so-called Goldilocks zone. We might be attractive to aliens in one way or the other, and they may be tracking us. They may be developing us.
But I'm thinking if you're looking at the elements we have, you don't need to come this deep into the solar system to find that sort of thing.
We don't know that.
Comets that can provide you all the water you want.
Yes.
You've got the Kuiper belt that has the minerals and all of that involved in it.
Yeah, but you're talking about things. I'm talking about how rare is intelligent life. Yeah.
Yes, I understand that, and I was getting to that point.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying if you're interested in that sort of thing, then you don't need to come to Earth to get it. If you're interested in the fact that the planet's in the Goldilocks zone and you need a space for your people, then the Earth becomes much more attractive because we're in the Goldilocks zone. So it really depends on what your mission is and what you're looking for to do. And I just don't. I struggle with the hostility of it because it seems to be rather benign the way they're doing it, but it is an attempt to take over without firing a shot.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you were a woman and you had a pregnancy, and then one day suddenly it was gone, and you had some sort of encounter, you might consider it very hostile indeed. And if somebody's toying with our genetic structure, until I know otherwise, to me that seems rather hostile.
Yes. I understand what you're saying.
All right. Let's take a few calls. Hello there on the phone. You're on the air with Kevin Randle. Hi.
I'd like to ask Kevin a question with regards to kick 846, 2852, or Tabby as they have it.
Sure.
And possibly issue a statement of my own feelings and proofs, if you want to hear it.
Well, okay, ask the question first.
Oh, that's not fair.
Yes, it is.
The question is, what are his feelings with the most recent interpretation in what I think is a disinformation as far as what is going on?
Okay, there has been no more recent determination I'm aware of, other than the megastructures that were mentioned and the dips in luminosity. So if you have something newer than that, I'm listening.
Yeah, the Dynasphere, which would have to be an incomplete Dynasphere, would.
You mean a Dyson sphere, right?
Yeah, yes, Dyson sphere. Sorry, they had the last I had heard on them, seen it on that, is they were estimating that they had an oblate spheroid star which was pulsing and looking rather strange, and they had graphed out some graphs indicating what they had estimated this would look like in the laboratory, compared it to the graphs seen and recorded from spatial observations. And my own personal background is in sciences and chemistry and things like that, looking at graphs and traces of hyperoxylic chromatin and everything.
Okay, but you're not telling me anything new. I was aware of what they've got and the graphs. I've seen them. We had them up on the website. So what's new?
Oh, yeah, I did not believe those graphs really coincided with each other. The question is, does he believe this oblate spheroid possibility, or is it nothing but misconjecture and disinformation?
Okay. In other words, Kevin, do you think there is really something there, or do you think they're just, guessing?
Well, I think there's something there, and I think it's interesting that one of the conclusions being drawn is that it's an artificial construct, and that's an exciting possibility. Can it be something natural that we haven't observed in other parts of the galaxy? Absolutely. But I think the most exciting prospect is that it's something artificial. I think that's an exciting possibility. And, I'm looking forward to them determining exactly what they're seeing there, and if it is suggestive of an alien intelligence.
Yeah,
of course, it wouldn't be aliens in their home world, but
right.
Alien to us.
Right. Well, I couldn't quite figure out where he was headed there. I think the information is still the same. The spacecraft, the telescope has not been repaired, so the information remains what we had. All right, we're going to take a break right here. Kevin Randle is my guest from the high desert. This is Midnight in the Desert, the cold, cold desert.
To initiate a dialogue sequence with Art Bell, please direct your finger digits and call 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952. Call Art.
Hi, everybody. All right, I'm trying to follow breaking news from Paris as we continue with the Kevin Randle interview. Certainly, the suspects are pinned down. It was known that one of those suspects that did not set off his vest probably is still in possession of that vest. So that could explode, I suppose. We know there's gunfire going on. It's a very, very fluid situation. And I'm going to try to continue to update you as I can. But these are ongoing events, and I want to be very careful not to say something that is simply not true at this hour. Just know that they do have them pinned down, or some of them pinned down. So here we go. Let's go back to Kevin and the phone line, and let's go to Las Vegas for Kevin Randle. Hi.
Hi. I have some information about the Travis Walton situation. That case was investigated when it happened by the local MUFON office that was down in, or chapter, I guess, that was down in either the Phoenix area, it could have been up in Fountain Hills, and also simultaneously by another UFO organization called Ground Saucer Watch, which was also in Phoenix.
And what did they find?
Well, they came up with exactly the same scenario, that the logging company that Walton and his friends worked for had a contract that they could not fulfill, and that they had to come up with a story that would say that their employees were afraid to go into this one area, which, by the way, Travis Walton's family had a cabin right up in that area. Mm-hmm. So this was the story that they came up with. And that the story was just a complete fraud. This is what I was told.
Well, if that's true, why do you think that ultimately they passed several lie detector exams? I'm not talking about just one person, but the whole group.
They actually did not pass the first lie detector exam.
Well, actually, one was, excuse me, ma'am, one of them tested only as questionable. They couldn't say one way or the other. Everybody else passed. That's the truth.
Now, I saw an extensive interview on television by one of the news channels in which they interviewed the man who gave the first lie detector test to him.
Yes.
That he was considered the finest lie detector expert in the state of Arizona,
right.
and actually did the work for the FBI in Arizona. And he was there, and I mean, they interviewed him right there, and out of his own mouth came the words that he had been contacted by the National Enquirer and hired by them. And they said that they did not want him to tell anybody, even in his family, where he was going. And he said he would not do that, and that he they told him he was going to this hotel where he would do the polygraph. So they said, well, okay, they relented. You can tell your wife, what hotel you're going to be at. He administered the lie detector test to all of them.
Yeah.
And he said all of them failed. And at that point, the National Enquirer took him into another room in the hotel.
Oh, please. You're beginning by telling me this man is beyond reproach, the very best, and now you're telling me that he got paid off by the National Enquirer?
No. They tried to get him to sign a document saying that he would not reveal the results of the polygraph exam, and he refused to do it.
But, ma'am, he did reveal the results of the exam, and they passed. There was one guy, I can't recall his name.
Mr. Bell, let me interject. He refused to sign the document that he would not say that they had failed. So he was free to say, yes, they had failed.
Okay, I see. All right, so they passed. I mean, so your point is?
That the Travis Walton whole story is just a fraud.
No,
everybody.
Actually,
wait a minute.
You've got some of the facts twisted around here. The National Enquirer helped Jim Lorenzen and APRO finance the first polygraph examination, and the guy said that he saw, I think it was actually Walton, he believed that Walton was trying to defeat the polygraph through various techniques, and so he decided that it was an indication of deception.
Well, there was one that was inconclusive. There was one excuse me, Kevin.
Yes.
There was one result that was inconclusive. Everybody else passed, not just once, but twice.
Well, that was subsequent to that. But, I mean, I've even talked to people down there. I lived in Arizona for almost 30 years. And I've talked to someone from GSW who was the head of GSW. And I've seen this guy interviewed. And everybody else who were the first people who were testing him and investigating, they all say that this is a completely made-up story. And you know what?
No, they don't. Ma'am, I'm sorry. No, they don't. The examiner who gave the test came up with one inconclusive from the group. Walton and everybody else, other than the inconclusive, and that's not a negative, passed. I mean, that's a fact.
That's not what he said on television. I did 4 years of public corruption investigation. I come from a big-time newspaper family, and you always take the first story that's told, because after that, everybody has time to cover their ass and come up with a different story.
All right.
And I will go with the guy who was head of GSW who investigated, and I'll go with the polygraph.
But the GSW guys weren't the first ones to investigate it. It was Jim Lorenzen and APRO that got the case first.
Right.
And Philip Klass is the one that came up with some of this information that you're telling us now. And Philip Klass was attempting to destroy the case.
For those who don't know, Mr. Klass is a debunker extraordinaire.
Yeah, I am aware of that. But as I say, I talked to the head of GSW, and I had talked to somebody from MUFON, and I heard and I watched the extensive interview on television, and I'm going with that.
Okay, well, go with that. Thank you. If you don't want to go with the facts, then nobody can make you do so. I appreciate your input, ma'am, but you're wrong. It's simple as that. You want to add to that, Kevin?
Well, I was going to say the nonsense about the contract is something that Phil Klass spewed in an attempt to provide a motivation for them creating this tale. But it turns out that even though they had not finished their contract on time, they got an extension, and there was really no pressure on them.
I was aware of that.
Financial pressure on them to do anything. That was Philip Klass's idea.
Yeah, well, Philip. Let's go to Troy on Skype. Hello, Troy.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, but you're way far away from the microphone. I can't put you on the air like that. If you can get close to your mic, whatever you're using for a mic, if it's in your laptop.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, much better, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so glad to be talking to you. Big fan since I was a kid. Kevin, same with you. I remember reading your book, UFO Cases, when I was like 10 or 13 years old. Anyway, I have a question.
Oh, I don't want to hear that. It makes me feel so old.
Well, sorry. Sitting where I am every night. Anyway, go ahead.
So the thing is I was coming back from a science competition in Yuma, Arizona, and on that night, it was the night of the Phoenix Lights. And when we were driving back on, I think it was the 8th, there was this weird light. It was like really late at night, and it was like circling around up in the sky, zigzagged around, and then just shot off. And we were all like, oh my God, what was that? What's that? And then we got home, and there was all these news reports about the Phoenix Lights. And I was just curious if you had heard anything else about that happening that night.
Okay.
There were quite a number of reports throughout Arizona, from Tucson, I think, all the way up to Kingman, of an object, a triangular-shaped object. Sometimes it was brightly lighted, sometimes it wasn't. But there's a number of reports about that object. And I think of some of the footage from Phoenix itself that probably were flares, but there were a lot of other sightings in the area around Phoenix and throughout Arizona of a larger object that traversed the entire state. So there's some good information and evidence of this whole thing.
Wow, yeah, no, that sounds pretty close to what I remember seeing. And I was in a car with other people, and we've talked about it since then. But I just had no other idea if there had other stuff going on. So thank you. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you very much for the call. And
glad we could help.
You bet. All right, let's go to the phone. And South Dakota, I think. Hi. Hello. Going once, going twice, gone. West Virginia, hello.
Hello. I have a thought on the whole benevolent or malevolent games visiting. In my opinion, if they were benevolent, they would just come down.
Okay, sir. Are you using a Bluetooth or something?
No.
Very tough connection we've got here. Anyway, whether they're friendly or unfriendly, go ahead.
If they were friendly, I would think they would just come down, say hi to everybody. And if they were malevolent, and they have all this genetic research technology, and they can just fiddle with whatever they want, wouldn't it just be easier just to make a virus and send it down, just wipe the whole planet?
I guess it depends what your intentions are, Kevin.
Well, I've always thought of a lot of this as the prime directive, which was observe but don't meddle. Kind of an anthropological point of view where you observe the primitive people and see how their society works without really injecting anything from your culture into it. So if you're a spacefaring race, it'd be much easier to observe what we're doing on Earth without getting involved in our day-to-day lives. So I've always kind of thought of it as the prime directive, observe but don't participate. And that's a fairly benign thing, but there's always the possibility that we're dealing with more than one race. So one or two races may be benign and one of them is kind of malevolent. So
is that what you think that we're dealing with many races?
I think that if you're looking at it, there probably is more than one race involved, and I think that if there is any kind of galactic communication out there, and I don't know that there is, but if you're involved in that and you tell your pals on another star system, you got to go out to take a look at Earth, see what they're doing, that it would inspire them to come and take a look at it as well. So there may be more than one group involved, and I know that there is some evidence, some suggestion that there's more than one race involved. And if you look at the information from the abductees, for example, you get a wide variety of descriptions of the creatures involved.
Mm-hmm. All right. William on Skype. You're on the air.
Yeah, Art, I just had a quick comment, well, a couple of them real fast. One, I do a lot of sky watches myself and stream them live to YouTube most nights, you know, when got clear weather anyway. And haven't picked up anything yet, but always hoping. So just wondered, could I give a shameless little plug to my channel?
You can.
Check it out. Yeah, it's Lucky43113 on YouTube. If anybody wants to, check out some of my sky watches. But what I wanted to ask the guest was, I always had a thought of why, at least our government, will not disclose anything and kind of get his opinion.
Why our government won't disclose anything? Okay.
My main thing is, I don't think they're too concerned like most people think, public can't handle it or whatever. The main thing I think is if they disclose that there's any extraterrestrials of any kind, then they'd be giving up kind of their power. They're not, quote, top dog anymore. There's something else out there that they can't really do anything about.
Well, people have thought that for a long time. In other words, that if our government knows they are there and our government is powerless to do anything about it, then obviously they would not want to admit that to the citizenry that it supposedly serves. Kevin?
And that's exactly the same thing I was thinking. You could suggest that religions might take a bad look at it because they're usurping their territory.
Trust me, they
but
will.
that's often been a thought that one of the reasons they don't want to talk about it is because shifts the balance of power. If you go back to 1947 with the Arnold sighting and all of that stuff, you can make the case that they're now dealing with something they don't understand completely, and they're trying to get an opportunity to understand it, and they don't want to admit that they don't have all the answers. So you've got a good reason for them to hide the information. I mean, we just come out of a very disastrous war, and they don't want to suggest anything like that. Why this attitude persists into the 21st century, I couldn't tell you, because I think people are sophisticated enough, and we've had enough of the fictional accounts, Star Trek, and that sort of thing, that I don't think people would just come unglued about it. And if you say, well, they've been here since 1947, they've been here since 1940, people are going to say, I've lived my whole life and it's not affected me one whit. Why do I care? So I don't understand why the cover-up persists today.
Well, you've got to believe me when I tell you I have talked to a number of religious people, Kevin, and if you ask them the right way, they will quite readily tell you that if a race of aliens were to land and know nothing of God or know nothing of religion, that it would destroy their religious universe. And I do understand that to them.
Oh, absolutely.
There is but one God, and that God would have to be everywhere. And if that God is not everywhere, what they believe would be threatened, and I mean severely threatened. It would upset they'd come right out and tell me. Let's go to the phone, and South Dakota, I think.
I am the Good Voice Whistle, and
your what?
To our Native American ceremonies, there are plenty of times that when we are conducting our ceremonies that there are UFOs above our ceremonies. And as we go in our ceremonies, there are UFOs above them. And as we conduct our ceremonies and we come out,
that actually is very interesting. Caller, hold on one second. You gave your, I guess, Native American name, sounded like first and last, and so I hit the button on it because we don't allow last names. And frankly, I don't speak your language, so I couldn't know, whether that was your full name or not, but we don't allow full names on the air, so cautiously I hit the button on that. That'll disappear.
No, that's fine. That's fine, Art, and I respect you, and I respect this conversation tonight.
Well, can I ask a question without... Are you Lakota?
Yes, I am. I'm Lakota Sioux, land of Crazy Horse, Red Cloud.
So you're Ogallala then?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And as we conduct our ceremonies, the UFOs that you guys explain, or that you guys, I'm not you, Art, but as the scientific world explains them, UFOs, well, they come and they circle around as we come out of our ceremonies. They blink, they drop down. You know, they never physically show themselves, but you know, as the world turns, you know, that's our grandfathers. We all come from Pleiades. So as we come out of our ceremonies and we see these UFOs come down, and you know, not physically down to the land, but they blink, you know, they give us signs. So, you know, that gives us some hope.
Well, here's what I would say. I would say that American natives who are at least outside have a far greater chance to see a UFO than most of the rest of us who never see anything except the ceiling and the TV in front of them. Kevin?
Well, and that was something I was going to say. If you take a look at the statistics, you see that most UFO sightings take place between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. when you'd be outside barbecuing or whatever. You know, that sort of thing. The sightings seem to correspond when people are outside doing stuff.
In other words, if you don't look up, you're not going to see something.
Absolutely.
That's really what it boils down to, right? Between 6 and 9, as you point out, people are outside, more likely to at least glance upward if they detect some sort of movement, but 90% of the time, 99% of the time, Wayne on Skype, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I'm trying to put all this UFO stuff together. You know, looking at the trillions of dollars that have disappeared into black projects, and, you know, you had a Lockheed talking about all this incredible technology that we'll never know about. And then I thought of the time, well, it was back in the 60s when the government determined that UFOs were not a threat to national security.
Oh, yes.
I wonder sometimes if really what they meant to say is they are no longer a threat to national security. You know, I've often wondered, you know, we tend to personify aliens as thinking and being kind of like us in maybe our worst aspects, or they may be our best aspects. But what if they're just kind of bumbling guys who, you know, 100,000 years ago, their civilization developed all this technology, and it just fixes itself, and they don't have to do anything except fly these things, and they've just kind of lost the connection to any kind of industrial development or any of this kind of thing, and you know, and maybe they didn't even know how their own craft worked until we figured it out.
Kind of like trust fund aliens.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I was going to say there was a wonderful science fiction movie called Morons from Outer Space, and that was kind of the premises of it. They had the technology and they could use it. They just didn't know how to fix it or what it was good for.
I'll have to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering that these little trust fund babies may be in control of things that could destroy our entire planet, I don't know. I hope they're not like that.
Yeah, I do too. I prefer to think of them as like graduate students studying the Earth for their dissertations.
All right. Let's go to Florida. Hello there on the phone.
Hey, how y'all doing? Yeah, when you were saying about how, like, if they came down and they had no idea of what God was or religion, that all of religion would, you know, be lost, I guess.
No, I didn't say all of religion would be lost. I said that the people, sir, I said that the ones who called me, presented with what I presented them with, said their faith would be shattered. That's what they said.
No, I understand that. Yeah, what I'm saying is I think it would be a lot more like they would be bringing a message to us, kind of like what the Europeans did when they came over to the Americas. They brought religion with them and tried to impose this idea to the people of the Americas. I think it would be similar with these beings coming down. They would probably have something to tell us or try to convince us to convert to. But I also wanted to hear Kevin's opinion of the possibility of them being time travelers from our future, and that's one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why the government doesn't want to disclose any of this, because they're aware of it, and they have an agreement with us from the future not to disclose anything, because it could be damaging to what's supposed to play out. You know what I mean?
Sure. seems as likely as anything else. Time travelers from the future. Why not, Kevin?
I've always said that my opinion is if we're dealing with an alien race from another planet is probably the most likely explanation. Time travelers, not quite as likely given some of the physics involved in time travel, could be interdimensional. So there's a number of possibilities if you begin talking about beings and structured craft and that sort of thing, and they would need some kind of a machine to travel back in time. So it's a possibility. I think more likely it is alien creatures from another star system, but time traveler is certainly a possibility. Well, and I've often said that.
Okay.
And I love time travel stories.
Okay. So do I. Very, very fond of them. Let's go to Skype. Philip, you're on the air.
Hey, Mr. Hart.
Hey, Mr. Philip.
Hey, Mr. Randle. I sent you a wormhole on this, but I had an idea on a phone app that I've been looking for something like it, but sort of like an Amber Alert, something where
for UFOs, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
An Amber Alert for UFOs.
Yes.
That's actually not all that bad an idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I thought for a minute we're going off into the la-la land, but that's kind of a neat idea.
So in other words, when something happens, the word would instantly get to everybody. That's really a good idea.
Yes,
or like
that's a marvelous idea.
A close radius to the sighting.
Yes.
Maybe get a triangulation.
Sure. If something
get your phone out and take a picture of it.
No, I like it.
Right.
I actually like it.
I like that.
Well, I just thought I'd throw it out there.
All right. Thank you very much for doing so. I'm getting word that one suspect in Paris apparently has blown herself up, indicating female, I guess, and a suspect has been shot by a sniper. So there is sure breaking news going on in Paris right now, and I guess they are closing in on those who did those awful attacks, or those who are left. So far it looks like 2 are dead, if the information I'm getting is accurate, which in a way is a shame. I understand that they want closure on this, but if they want information, they're not going to get it from the dead. And we now apparently have 2 dead in a ongoing situation in Paris. Let's continue and go to Las Vegas. You're on the air.
Hey, Art. This is Chaz calling from Las Vegas. I'm listening to 790, and I do apologize. I'm not yet on the call letters for that station. But
that'd be KBET, actually. And now there is one suspect alive. I'm hearing in an apartment building. Sorry, I'm trying to pass this on as I'm getting it. It's breaking news. Go ahead, sir.
No, please do, Art. Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Randle. Who would you consider being the new guard of investigators that you would consider passing the baton to carry on the field of ufology? Who would you consider being one of the main people for the new guard, so to speak?
Oh man, I know. There's been talk about we geezers need to get out of the way and let the youngsters in.
Question is, where are they?
And the people I think of are in their 40s, which if you're 20 is really old, you know. Yeah, I think of people like Mark D'Angelo, who brings a scientific background to his study of the UFOs. I think of people like that. I don't really know many people who I would consider the new guard.
Well, then you're answering the question kind of negatively in a way.
Yeah. I think
a little scary.
It is.
Yes. But there was an FBI document I read, and I think I mentioned it in government UFO files, where an FBI agent had gone to a lecture in 1960 of, I think it was George Van Tassel in Denver, and he commented at the time that the audience skewed very old, and it was little gray-haired ladies and gray-haired men, and there wasn't a lot of youngsters in the audience. Mm-hmm. And so I think but somehow, somewhere, the youngsters like me came from to move on. But I don't know. I guess I don't know personally anybody. I don't know anybody myself.
All right.
I guess that's the answer.
All right. Well, there is the answer, but that is not a good answer. I mean, it's an answer. It's a kind of a negative answer if you believe in the future of ufology. So maybe when it really does come around, if it really does come around, there'll be nobody to look up and report because the geezers are gone. Says the geezer from Peru.
This is Midnight in the Desert. To call the show, if you're east of midnight, call 1-952-CALL ART. If you're west of midnight, call 1-952-225-5278.
Well, all right, staying current with what's going on in France, it appears the French Justice Minister is now saying the raid is coming to an end, with apparently 3 police killed. Sorry to hear that. 1 civilian shot as well. So it looks as though they have closed in France, and I'm sure the story will unwind through the night. But they've been hot after it, and it looks like it's paid off. Whether we're going to learn anything as a result of all this, I don't know if anybody's left alive who can talk. But it doesn't sound like it at this hour. Nevertheless, it's a fluid situation, and whether it's really over or not, the French minister says, yes, we shall see. Ongoing in France right now. And once again, Kevin Randle, sorry, a lot of news breaking during your stay here, Kevin.
Not a problem. And I would think that even if they've killed all the terrorists, there'd be documents and hard drives and things they can recover some information from.
Could be, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Akron, Ohio on the phone. You're on the air with Kevin.
Oh, hello, Kevin. I read a book a long time ago. I think her name was Twyla Nitschke. It was there were many council fires held before now. Anyway, this is to suggest another possibility. She was a Native American, and in her book, she said that just before this age, the age of Kali, it started about 10, 12,000 years ago, that part of the people knew that the people on the surface of the earth would be going kind of nuts for a while. And so they kind of went underground and took their technology with them. So with this, it wouldn't necessarily be aliens or time travelers, but part of us that, went underground to avoid going kind of nuts. What do you think of that sort of idea?
There's days when I want to dig a hole.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. There's been a lot of discussion of this, and it gets down into the inner Earth theory as well. I haven't seen any solid evidence that would suggest that that's true, but all that means is I haven't seen any evidence.
All right. Well, I think we're going to Australia. And Kevin, hello.
No, not Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is Mario.
Mario, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, Art. Yeah, Kevin, I've got actually 2 questions for you. With the difficulty of trying to release footage and photos of potential sightings, what do you think is potentially the best way to do that, to actually have a subjective and critical assessment of what actually was recorded?
Well, you've got to talk to the witnesses, and hopefully there's more than one. And if you can find independent witnesses who can verify the sighting, that will that'll increase the credibility. And it depends on what the footage looks like, how long it lasts, and what is being done. But when you're dealing with something like a photograph or video footage, it really comes down to the witness and who he or she is, what is their history? Are they practical jokers? Are they serious people? Are they well educated? Do they understand what's going on around them? And are there independent witnesses that can help corroborate the story?
Maybe, but Kevin, they say now that, check me if I'm wrong here, but all the police will tell you that independent witness testimony is one of the most unreliable things that you can depend on, whether it's, a robbery and trying to describe the robbers or anything else. Independent witness testimony is inevitably wrong or screwed up. What do you think?
Well, then you've eliminated one way of assessing the sighting. You've got the video footage. And you have, the other thing is you have to be careful in the way you ask questions. You say, did the car stop at the stop sign? Or do you say, did the green car stop? Well, you've just implied the car is green and you've kind of screwed up your
right.
investigation.
Right.
But if you've got video footage, you absolutely have to have independent witnesses to it. Somebody seeing the object in the sky from another location, or it's going to be very difficult to verify the credibility of the sighting.
Let me refer you to even recent incidences where either the police have shot a suspect or gotten into a tussle and then ended up killing a suspect one way or the other. There have been witnesses that have come forward and just have been totally wrong. Absolutely wrong about the way it came down, even though they were looking at it. Mario, are you with me on this?
Yeah, the memory is a funny old thing, and I think that people can potentially think they're remembering something else. It can be almost like remembering a dream, I guess, in some circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I do have another question for you.
But
Go ahead.
You've just now eliminated witness testimony.
I know. I don't mean to do so. I'm just saying that witness testimony has been traditionally not very reliable.
We understand that when you're investigating a case and you're talking to the witnesses, you have to be very careful and you have to gather the testimony very carefully. In the case from Mount Vernon, Iowa, where the woman was seeing a dome-shaped craft with aliens in it, and the guy said, "No, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. There were just these lights coming down in the sky." I mean, yeah, two very diametrically opposed.
I rest my case.
Testimonies, but I understood where the woman was coming from.
Okay, Mario?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think given the actual topic at hand, having multiple sightings by multiple people that can correlate, say, video footage could work effectively. But when it's isolated to images, perhaps not as much, because obviously images are easier to fake. My second question to you is, over the many years of research that you've done, and things that I've come across, I've noticed that when you have three objects together, more often than not, they're very much in a triangle formation, which I find quite interesting. And it makes me wonder if there's any correlation between that and the all-seeing eye that's basically presented itself through history. I'm just curious what your comments would be on that.
Well, the only thing I'll say is that if you've got three objects, they're pretty much either in a straight line or in a triangle or an arc of some kind, which I guess could be a triangle. So you have to be careful on that one. But I'm not sure there's a correlation between the all-seeing eye and UFO sightings. I'm not sure there's a correlation there, which is not to say there isn't. It's just I'm not sure there is.
All right. Onward. Anchorage, Alaska on the phone. You're on the air.
Hey, Art, can you hear me okay?
I hear you.
Great. First of all, I want to compliment you, Art. I used to call you king of late night talk radio. I'm going to call you timeless, okay? Thank you so much for especially UFOs. This is the stuff Art Bell is just magnificent. And every time I take it for granted, you'll get a caller like the guy who talked about the Amber Alert. What brilliancy. I mean, these are the moments, Art Bell, that you represent. They're just magnificent.
That is brilliant, actually, and I hope that I hope we see some apps coming out, because what a great way to proceed.
truly, truly a great, and Art, I would hope you'd get your name in the midst of this union of money, or what they call those new funding groups. So here's my position. In my tiredest of moments, I'm convinced that we're a penal colony or some type of feedstock, okay? But looking on the brighter side of it, I have a question here, and I get them briefly, but I think we're about to find out that, like the jungle floor teeming with life, we're way in the midst of so many things, and the fascinating quest is going to be to find how they hold galactic order, because I think we're going to find there's so many life forms out there that are ahead of us. Now, here's my question, and thanks for your show. It's really fast-moving. I don't know how NASA continues to escape accountability. We own those people, and there's no reason why they couldn't have cameras for us and couldn't be accountable, especially with the telescopes and stuff up there. I'm astounded these people could escape accountability and be right in the midst of it all. And I guess unless you have a question, I'll hang up and whatever you want to do here. But
okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit. Kevin, let's talk about NASA for a second.
NASA, I think there's been a number of attempts to get NASA to look at the UFOs, and they just refuse to touch it. And I think I understand why, and it just is because it can be such a bottomless pit of, and you've got all kinds of information coming in, and I think it would take up an awful lot of their time and away from their.
Well, Kevin, there is this. They have cameras on the International Space Station, right?
Oh, absolutely. They got cameras all over the place.
Yes, and many times they're trained on the Earth, Kevin. And I don't know if you followed this, but there have been times when things are seen leaving our atmosphere and going to space, and then suddenly something that has been up for hours and hours and hours, i.e. the NASA feed, suddenly just disappears like that.
I know that happens, and I was also thinking of the tracking stations in the Air Force tracking stations with the Aerospace Command or whatever it is, where they're looking at this stuff, but we never hear if they see anything extraordinary going out from or coming to the Earth. So there's all kinds of information gathering entities out there that would be very valuable to us if we could access the information in real time.
Okay, let's go to Skype. And Anthony, hello.
Hey, how you doing, Art?
Okay, sir. You're breaking up.
How about now? Am I okay now?
Not really good. What are you using?
I'm using an iPhone.
All right, now it sounds better, but you don't have us on speakerphone. Take us off speakerphone, and everything will be well.
Speakerphone, now you're on my radio.
Okay, so you've got us off.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
Okay, all I wanted to say was this. I'm glad to have you back on the air, and my whole family listens to you.
Thank you.
And I'm from Ozone Park, New York. And,
no, you're from New York? You kid.
Yeah, I am in New York. I'm on my way home from work.
Oh, okay.
And I always listen to you. I think it's great program you have here.
Thank you.
And they do have an app on the iPhone for UFO spotting and, seeing if they exist or they're in your area.
And what app is that?
It's called UFO. If you put a UFO on the app, you'll find it.
I will do so, and I'll look for it.
So will I.
Thank you very much. So in his car, on the phone. How about that? I know.
But there's one of those things we were talking about, the technological advances. I mean, how many people had phones in their car 50 years ago?
They didn't at all. Hello there. In Vancouver, you're on the air with Kevin. Vancouver, going once.
Art?
Yes. There you are.
I am listening to you on KXL 101 out of Portland, Oregon.
That's the way to do it. Thank you.
I have a question for Kevin there.
Sure.
I'd like to talk to him about the Maury Island incident in 1947. It occurred about a week before the Kenneth Arnold sighting.
Allegedly occurred before the Kenneth Arnold sighting.
I know a lot of researchers seem to dismiss this. There were a few, shady characters involved in that investigation, but I do know that 2 Air Force officers died in that investigation.
Well, actually, they died as a result of an aircraft accident, and it was only coincidental that they had been to Oregon to meet with Kenneth Arnold and E.J. Smith, who was the airline captain, who had seen a number of UFOs on July 4th. And they met with Chrisman and Dahl in Arnold's hotel room. So I'm very familiar with the case, and I am among those who dismisses it.
Okay, well, I do know this. I know that in Kelso, Washington, where that B-25 crashed, there is a museum there today, and a little city museum, and they have parts of that aircraft that crashed, and they also have pieces of the slag that dropped from one of those UFOs. There were 6 donut-shaped craft that appeared over Harold Dahl's boat, and one of them rained down this material that ended up damaging his boat. It killed their dog. It badly burned his son. And
you're aware, of course, the son denies this.
No, I wasn't aware of that. But I do know that to this day they still have pieces of that slag, and there's still a ton of it on the bottom of Puget Sound.
Well, George Early, who lives in Oregon, has did a great deal of work and investigation on this case, and so I would think of him as the authority on it. And he did a number of articles for the old UFO magazine. If you can dig those up, that would be a good place to take a look for information on that case. I did something in I think the book Alien Mysteries and Cover-Ups that came out a couple of years ago. About the Maury Island case, based on a lot of what George Early had found and other information. Interestingly enough, I think it was Chrisman who had written a letter to Ray Palmer, who was the editor of Science Fiction magazine and started the Shaver mystery stuff. And Chrisman claimed that he had been in the caves where the DeRose lived when he served in the military during the Second World War.
That was kind of the problem. That was what I think discredited the entire thing.
That helped discredit it. But if I would bow to George Early's expertise on this case, because he spent a lot of time looking into it.
Okay, well, I certainly thank you for your opinion.
All right, thank you very much for your call. We're very, very short on time. Jeb on Skype, real quick if you have something.
Yeah, I can do it real quick. I'll drop out my second point. The one thing I wanted to say is that for a long time, I was a proponent of disclosure and that whatever's going on, we deserve to know about it. And the more I thought about it, what if the situation is something like, they're here and they're abducting us. We can't do anything about it. They could take your children in the middle of the night and you might not ever see them again. Sorry about that. We can't do anything. If that was the situation, I don't know if a lot of people would really want to know that. You might be better off as
not going,
as John Lear said. Yeah, just kind of going through and doing your thing and
live life, enjoy life.
Exactly. Right. Hope that doesn't happen to you and just have a nice life.
Live long and prosper.
That's right. That's a good way to end it, actually, Kevin. We have to because we're out of time. So thank you for being here.
I've enjoyed it.
It has been very interesting to have you on tonight. I'm sure we'll have you back. Kevin, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Good night. All right, that's Kevin Randle. Again, the breaking news from Paris is that 2 suspects are dead. 1 blew herself up, 1 killed by a sniper. We've got varying statements. It's a very fluid situation, as it always is with these kinds of things. So we'll just watch and see what develops. For the moment, from the high desert, I'm Art Bell. Good night.
Thank you, Art Bell. As always, we'll leave this to the end of the day as well. Like, share, and subscribe. Get us to the goal of 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers, so that red presents come this way, and Google pays attention. CoinBase and Ibotta below, you know the drill. Till next time, like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another. And it's always a great new world to release the Krakens as we sign off from day one for tonight. Enjoy and have a great night's rest. We'll see you tomorrow here as we march along in the Dominion's birthday celebration.